Hello, my name is Allie Arnold and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my very first video and I'm super excited to be here today to teach you a Valentine's Day menu. So this is getting released the day before Valentine's Day, so February 13th. So it's just in time for you to be able to shop and get everything for this menu. So we're going to start out with potatoes Dauphinoise, which is basically just cheesy scalloped potatoes. It's just the fancy French term, but because it's Valentine's Day, we want it to sound extra fun and exciting. Then we're having a steak with a Brussels sprout salad, as well as a chocolate torte. And then you can always add on if you want to make an appetizer, make it more surf and turf, whatever it is, you can always rearrange, mix and match recipes in order to make them perfect for you and your family. So while I am chopping and dicing, I'm going to make sure you guys can watch everything that I'm doing. So you're not always going to see my face, but that's okay. So I'm going to lower my camera and we're going to start making our potatoes Dauphinoise. I have the oven set on 375 degrees and I've got a dish here. It calls for an 8x8 dish. This is just a 8-inch round dish. So here we go. Let's get started in making this beautiful potato Dauphinoise. All right, so as you can see, we've got the board here and we've got our potatoes and we're going to slice them thinly using the mandolin. And I just have this ready to go. That's okay. So when you use a mandolin, you can always slice them free-handed if you'd like. You want to make sure you protect your hands. So the way I'm doing it, probably not the best. That's why they have these nice little guards here, and you can use that instead. Because we want to protect your fingers. So it's about a 1/4-inch slice. And it's about a pound of potatoes, a little bit more than that for this, because I couldn't get exactly what I needed, but that's okay. It's not going to affect the recipe that much. All right, and now we're going to layer our potatoes here. So I'm going to put this right in the center. And we're just going to make a nice scalloped look here, just layering the potatoes over each other. All right, then we're going to season a little bit. So we're just making 3 layers here to make sure that the potatoes get nicely seasoned, and there's plenty of cheese. So it's about a cup worth of cheese. So which is around 4 ounces. And you want to make sure that all that cheese is extra cheesy. All right. See a little bit. All right, and this is the last layer of potatoes here. And doesn't look as pretty as I thought it would, but that's okay. Now we're going to pour our heavy cream over the top. And sprinkle a little bit more salt on top of those layers. This is going to help get the potatoes nice and creamy and also help it bake so that way they get nice and tender. So now I'm just going to cover it with foil and then put it in the oven, and it's going to go in for 45 minutes, and it could take a little bit longer depending on your oven. My oven runs a little cool, so I actually have it higher up than 375, just to ensure that it's at the correct temperature. So different ovens, of course, act a little differently depending on if they are calibrated correctly. All right, so in that goes. And then I'm going to set that timer for 45 minutes. All right, next up. We also have to get our cake in the oven. So we're going to go ahead and get that prepped and ready to go. What I'm going to do here is get our pan ready. So it is I think it's a 10-inch pan. And we're going to make a circle with the parchment paper to be able to stick the parchment paper down into the bottom of the pan. So when we do that, I usually use a pencil or a pen, and I just go around the pan just to make sure that it's approximately. So you can kind of see where I drew it. Well, actually, you really can't. Okay. So anyway, just believe me that it's there. I went around the very edge of the pan to get the circumference of the parchment here. And we're just going to cut around that little line to make a circle. So then once you do that, we're going to butter our pan. The recipe, it actually works a lot better if you butter the pan, or if you love the baking spray, that's fine too. I just think the butter turns out a lot better. So keep that in mind when you are baking. A lot of times if it calls like butter and flour, you can use that pan, but the butter and flour is going to do a lot better than if you just did the other. So I got my butter here, and I'm going to take the pan, and all I'm doing is just running it like this. You can use a paper towel once it's kind of spread around to smooth it out. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So we kind of got it haphazardly put in there. And then I'm going to use that paper towel. I'm just going to rub it to make sure it's nice and even. Like that. All right, so now we're just going to place that piece of parchment down into the bottom of the pan and just smooth it right out so that way it looks wonderful like that. Great. Okay. So now first thing we're going to do is make ourselves a double boiler. So that's a little bit of water in the bottom of a pan. And we are going to turn that on medium-high heat and place the chocolate and the butter on top. So it's about 4 ounces of chocolate and 7 tablespoons worth of butter. And then we're just going to let that melt completely. So it's on top, ready to go. And then we're going to go ahead and get everything else ready for the cake. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to crack the eggs. I always crack them separately from where they need to go in case the shell like just happened. Just did that. And then we're going to whisk away. So when it's small like this, I like to use a little fork and just whisk. It makes it so much easier. You don't have to get out a whole whisk or anything like that. But for this particular recipe, you'll still need the whisk to bring the eggs and the sugar together. So we're gonna pour that together. You can see. And then I'm gonna lightly whisk this together. All right. All right, so meanwhile, we're gonna wait for that chocolate to start melting. We can go ahead and get other things going. You don't have to stand there over the stove every single time you're making a big dinner or anything like that. You can just keep going. It makes it so much easier, and it allows you more time to clean up and to organize yourself, so that way you're always ready for the next thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands because they feel kind of buttery. And we can go ahead and start making that salad, because the salad has a little bit of chopping and dicing, and it'll be so much easier if we just go ahead and have it ready and in the fridge, ready for when it's time to serve our Valentine. So let's start with the dressing. So I've got a little cup here and it has a lid. These are great. I'm not an affiliate, but these are from Pampered Chef. And they've got these great lids. I'm sure there's other brands that have that, and they also have measures on the side. So we are making a red wine vinaigrette, and with the red wine vinaigrette, we are going to have 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. So that's going to be just under a cup. So 1 cup is 4 tablespoons. And we're in real time, so I am not, the bottle got stuck. So I couldn't open it. Okay, so I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to measuring. So right here it has a quarter, and we really only need 3 tablespoons. So I'm going to fill it just under that line. Make it so much easier for ourselves. Then we've got Dijon mustard. So it's a teaspoon worth of Dijon mustard and 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. So it's probably more than 2. So about a teaspoon. Add that in. And then about 2 teaspoons of the maple syrup. So we're going to just add that right there. Then I'm going to take it like this and just shake it up. It makes it so much easier than having to whisk and bring out, and it's also a lot faster too. So shake, 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 and then about 2 tablespoons worth of extra virgin olive oil. And then we're just going to add some salt and pepper. All right. You got your dressing. That's it. Super easy. All right, let's check on our butter over here. We are just going to stir that, make sure it's melting properly. All right. So it's still melting, and we can actually turn down the heat a little bit because it's going a little too crazy. And we also don't want it to like completely evaporate. In there, you've got a little bit of water, so you don't want that to evaporate all the way. And it will, because they're not perfectly sealed. It's not like a lid that stays nice and sealed up. Okay, so let's continue working on that salad and getting that ready to go. All right, so we have our green leaf lettuce. I just got some simple green leaf lettuce from the grocery store, already kind of washed and everything. Says it's washed. It's up to you whether or not you want to wash your own lettuce that comes in the box. Not really sure if you're supposed to or not. Best ways to wash, in my opinion, is with water with a little bit of vinegar, just to kind of get any of those pesticides or anything like that off of it. Just not too much white vinegar, because then your stuff is going to taste like vinegar. All right, so we've got our lettuce here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take off some of these. Well, I guess it does need wash. There's a little buggy in there. All right, so quick washing. All right, and remember, this is only a salad for 2 people, so you don't have to have a whole lot. I really like the inside leaves a lot, and I like to save the outside leaves more for like sandwiches and stuff like that. So we're going to take just a handful of the lettuce. I'll just rip it in half, and we'll just get it together and just kind of run our knife through it like that. So it's still kind of chunky and still bite size, but we're just going to add that in. Then we're going to start in on our Brussels sprouts here. And we're just going to slice them thinly. So what I like to do is just cut off the ends. And these were washed ahead of time. And then I like to just slice them in half. Like that. And then we'll just chop them up a nice slice. Let's add some crunch into the salad. A little bit of in season as well. You could always do a whole salad like this. You could always cut your Brussels sprouts like this and saute them with a little bit of butter and salt. And that is always delicious. All right. And I break them up like that just to keep them going. All right, let's see where we are with our salad here. I mean, with our cake, and then we'll come back to that salad. All right, hold on one second. Let's see. All right. It's almost melted. See how it's coming together? So it's nice and creamy. It looks nice and glossy. It's not chunky any longer. All right, so I got a little bit of Brussels sprout in there. Whoops. I don't know if chocolate Brussels sprout is delicious, huh? It probably is. Okay, so we're gonna cut our heat off. Then what we're gonna do is temper the eggs. So when you are tempering the eggs, you're gonna take a little bit of the chocolate and put it into the egg. That is to bring that egg up to the same temperature as the chocolate. So that way the chocolate doesn't curdle the eggs, because you don't want a curdled cake, because that would not be delicious. At least I personally don't think so. All right. So you're gonna take, I'm gonna put the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. All right. Oops. Hot. All right, so you're gonna pour about 1/3 of the mixture into the eggs. Here. You're just gonna whisk it together. And now you're gonna pour the remainder of this into the rest of the chocolate. And make sure you get all of it. That's why I suggest something like this spoon spatula situation to really get everything in there. You're gonna bring it together like this. All right. Now we're gonna add in our flour. And it's not flour, it's cocoa powder. Sorry about that. And then we're just gonna sprinkle it in like that, and we're just gonna whisk it, fold it in. Put in the rest here. Make sure it's all incorporated. And once this cake is done, it is absolutely delicious, and it is perfect to have with some ice cream. And this really serves 4 people. It's not a 2-person cake per se, but you could always divide them up into smaller smaller cake pans and bake them that way. Just keep an eye on the time, because it would take a little less time in the oven. So this takes about 20 minutes. So when it says 20 minutes on the clock there, I will put it into the oven, so that way the potatoes and the cake come out at the same time, making it easy on ourselves. All right. There's still some good stuff in there. We don't want to waste the chocolate, because that's the best part, right? And chocolate is so romantic to have on Valentine's Day. All right. You're just going to smooth that out so it's nice and even, turning to make it easy. And then you can just do that. I mean, you are baking in your own home, so you don't have to be perfect when it comes to following all the food guidelines. That was probably more dramatic than we needed to. Okay. So I'm gonna wash my hands. And we can start finishing up that salad. So it is ready to go, and we can focus on our steak, which will be the last tidbit that we are going to be working on today. So radishes, we're going to do much of the same thing. We're just going to take off the ends there and then cut it in half. A little bit more hiding. All right, so just the same thing. We're just going to do a nice little slice and get those all sliced up. Again, this adds some nice crunch to that salad, which is going to be a contrast to like the steak, which is kind of more chewy, and the potatoes, which are going to be softer and creamy. So when you're composing dishes like this, especially for something celebratory, you kind of want to make sure you've layered in different textures and mouth feels. Just keep your guests and your whoever you're cooking for just more excited to eat, because there's always a different texture, a different flavor just kind of going into their mouth, especially if they're switching between dishes, like, or switching between sides and the main and all of that. All right, so we've got that. And then last but not least, we have our red onion and toasted pecans, which have already been toasted. And I just toast them typically in my little toaster oven. So with onions, you always want to slice off the ends like that, go straight down the middle. And we're actually going to use the other half of the onion for something else. So hold on tight to that. And we're only using half the onion in this, and we probably don't want to use all of it because we'll end up with some extra onion breath. And if this is Valentine's Day, you might want to be enjoying each other's company in another way afterwards. So then we're just going to thinly slice. And this is a rather big onion. If it was a smaller one, I would say we could use the whole thing, but it's very large. And I just kind of slice it a little bit just to kind of keep them from being so large. Just nice bite-sized pieces, because you don't want to be embarrassing yourself by having half of an onion ring falling out of your mouth. All right, so we're going to cover this with plastic, put it into the fridge, because we do not need it until it's time to serve now, because we've got the dressing, we've got the pecans, and we've got I don't know how to use the plastic wrap, apparently. My husband got a new kind and I don't know how to use it. There we go. So there we go. There's not really a place for that in my fridge for now, but that's okay. We can worry about that later. All right. So we've gotten our potatoes ready. We've gotten our dessert ready. All you have to do is just match it with some ice cream. So when it's time to serve, you can do that. I also got some little raspberries you can kind of sprinkle on top just to make it look festive and romantic. I also got the salad ready with the dressing and the pecans. So we are well on our way to being almost done with our recipes all together. So why don't we clean up our cutting boards? This is one of the best times to do that, is when you're kind of in a lull, you're waiting for other things to happen. The steak isn't going to take that long to make. So we're just going to clear everything off so that way we can start on our next item, which is our board sauce for our ribeye. So what a board sauce means is that it's just a sauce that you put together on your cutting board, essentially. I know that sounds so easy and simple, and who wouldn't have thought of that? So we'll grab a bowl so we can put it in for when we serve. All right, so we have a bowl. And what we're going to do is start chopping our parsley and our thyme. And we're going to get that ready to go. Meanwhile, I'm gonna actually get our steak pan starting to heat up, because your steak, the cast iron needs to be nice and hot, but not too hot, because it's a bit, if you got a good steak, because this one's going to be shared between the two of you. You could also do them in half, or you each get your own. It's really up to you, but I think that the thicker the steak, you're going to get a nicer, juicier inside. So this is a 1 pounder to split between the two of you. It is not for just one person. That is an awful large steak. So let's go ahead and start on our parsley and our thyme, and go ahead and get that board sauce going while the pan is starting to heat up. All right, dropping that down again. And my hinges wanna, there we go. Okay. All right, so you've got your parsley, and it calls for, I think, 2 tablespoons. Yes, we have 2 tablespoons worth of chopped parsley, 1 tablespoon of thyme, and then we are also going to be having some red onions and some capers in this sauce as well. So first off, we're going to just chop up that parsley. I just ripped some off at the top, and we're just going to slice through it like that, and then chop it. All right. Then I'm going to add a bunch of thyme. So it's about 1 tablespoon. Oh, and it's actually now time to put in our cake. So we're just going to add that into the oven there. All right. So we're just going to pick the thyme. All right, let's chop this up. All right. And then we also have our capers. So they've got a lot of liquid. There's about a tablespoon worth of capers. This is going to add some nice brininess to it. And I like to chop mine just a light chop, just so they're not rolling all over the plate and all that kind of stuff. All right. So then we're also going to char up our onion here. And that's going to get added as well to our board sauce. So I'm just going to cut it into like chunks. It says wedges, but you can do pretty much whatever you want. And then, because it's going to be easier to char it if they're in chunks like that. So we're actually going to char that after the steak has cooked, just because we have to have our steak rest before we slice it. So that's why we're going to wait and do that at that point. So right now I'm going to go ahead and add some oil into the pan, because it's starting to get nice and hot. Then we're going to make our spice rub for this. And it's just going to be a little bit of thyme, and allspice and salt and pepper. And we're going to mix that into a little bowl, which I need to grab. So it's going to be about a teaspoon worth at the time. So it's a little bit in the palm of your hand. About a half teaspoon of that allspice. And then we need plenty of salt and pepper. So about a teaspoon worth of the salt of the pepper and a teaspoon and a half at least of the salt. Just to make sure that steak gets nice and flavored because it is a nice big piece of steak. So then we're just going to stir it up. You don't have to like put it into a bowl and stir it with a spoon. Just use your fingers. It's so much easier that way. All right, so now we're going to take our steak and we're just going to sprinkle that on top. Nice and simple. I'm going to have it right here. All right. So there's a little bit left over. I just like to go on the sides a little bit. All right. Let's get that steak going. And I'm going to put it on the far side because I know that my stovetop, I don't know about yours, but mine has a different side that's hot and another side that's cold. So I put it on the side that actually gets hot. I'm just going to write that up there. All right. So now that we've got our steak going, and we've got our board sauce going, I'm going to go ahead and just put the onions in because we've got time. We're just waiting on everything to come out of the oven and get ready. So we're just going to add that in. And this is also a great time while that's cooking because there's really not a whole lot you have to do while it's cooking. Just clean up your board a little bit so that way you're not working in a complete mess. Or you can always have like a little garbage bowl beside you or a bag or something like that just to put everything in while you cook. And then I advise people to also put things away as you cook so that way you're not you don't feel cluttered, and once something is done you don't need to get back into it, so you can just seal it up and put it back in your fridge or put it back in your pantry or wherever it goes, just to make it easy for you. And then when also I have some downtime, this is when I also come up during like wash dishes, throw things in the dishwasher, just that way you don't have as much work to do later. Because nobody likes to clean. It's not the funnest thing ever, of course. So see how it's starting to get nice and brown? We're wanting to get that on all the sides there. And then the steak is starting to get brown too. So we're going to get a nice, beautiful crust with it. And in a little bit, we're going to add some butter into the pan. Once those onions come out, we're going to add some butter into the pan and we're going to start basting our steak just to help get it like that beautiful, nice, crispy, golden crust on the outside of the steak. So it's going to taste that much better. See, look at that. It's beautiful. All right, well, I'm gonna let that cook for a minute and then we'll come back. All right, so the onions are done. They are really beautiful. They're nice and golden brown. They've got some sear on it. They have been cooked through, so they're nice and soft. And so now all I'm going to do is just run my knife over it and just chop away. They don't have to be perfect. All right, so I'm going to just scoop this up and just put it in that bowl. And then we're just going to add some extra virgin olive oil to it after we've stirred it up. So we're just going to stir it up. And you do kind of want the parsley and the thyme to wilt a little bit. That's perfectly okay. And then we're putting about 2 tablespoons of the extra virgin olive oil, like that. A little bit of salt and pepper. And we just stir it up like that. All right, so this is going to go with your steak. All right, so last thing that we have left to finish is our steak. And we're going to add in that butter. We're going to get just a nice big soup spoon, and we're going to use that to baste the steak. I'm going to take that. Put the pan a little bit, and we're just going to scoop up some of that and put it right on top of the steak. Beautiful. All right, so what we're going for here is for the steak to be medium rare. So you can test that with a thermometer, or you can test it just by touching. It has different feel as you cook it. So a fun little gimmick that I do, and I'm going to pull that out in a second, is I just loosen up my hand like this, and this right here, if it's loose, your thumb pad, it's going to be rare. So then you're going to link these 2 fingers together, feel that. That's going to be what medium rare feels like. Then you're going to go to medium, medium well, and then well done is going to be really hard. So you're just going to touch the middle of your steak, just kind of see how that feels. And it's a great medium rare. So honestly, my steak is done. And I'm just going to let that rest on my cutting board for about 5 minutes, which is perfect because the scallops potatoes need to come out. And this is a great time to test them for their tenderness. See how juicy and beautiful they look. Oh, they're nice and tender. Wonderful. All right, then we're going to just sprinkle that remaining bit of the Gruyere on top, which actually wasn't a whole lot because I didn't put that much on there. All right, so the Gruyere, I'm just spreading the remaining Gruyere on top. And then we're going to put that back into the oven. And then we can go ahead and take out our cake. So it only needs to be in the oven for about 10 more minutes, letting that cheese get nice and melted. All right, so the cake is done. What we're gonna do is let it sit for about 5 minutes, just that way it cools down enough. And then we're going to flip it out onto a plate for serving. So, or if you want, if you have a beautiful dish or a beautiful pie pan, you can always serve it directly into out of the bowl that you have. So similar to what I put the scalloped potatoes in, that would be a perfect thing to put this cake in as well, because you can just scoop it out and it may not be absolutely perfect or beautiful. So it's totally up to you. All right, so we're gonna wait for that to happen, and I'm gonna wait for the steak to cool down a little bit before slicing. All right, so now it's time to slice the ribeye. We're gonna see how beautiful it is. And I may not even slice it all the way, but oh gosh, that's perfectly cooked. We've got a nice, beautiful medium rare. Ah, yeah, that looks so good, y'all. All right. We are going to be ready for a beautiful Valentine's Day dinner. So I'm super excited to show y'all the scalloped potatoes, which are about to come out of the ovens. Hold on 1 second. All right, it just came out of the oven, and I want y'all to see how beautiful, and I mean, it was bubbling just a second ago. Oh, it still is. And it's nice and beautiful and golden brown on top. Absolutely perfect. So there is your Thanksgiving menu. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope if you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because there will be more videos every single week. Thanks so much, y'all. Bye now.